happening, investors? It is your boy Jack, and today I have a very, very special guest on the channel, a man by the name of Tim Grosse. Tim, thank you so much for coming onto the channel today. Could I ask you to give us a bit of background on yourself?
Yeah, hi Jack. Glad to be with you. Thanks for inviting me. Well, my company is called E Squared Energy Advisors. We're an energy advisory group that works primarily in North America with many different products and services in the energy efficiency world and renewable energy world. And also now with our rollout of our zero emission vehicle as a service program, we are transferring to offer services in the transportation sector as well.
Fantastic. That's absolutely fantastic. And you guys have an awesome mission of wanting to go net zero clean all the way. You want everything to be clean energy. I suppose the first thing I want to start off with today that a lot of the viewers are going to be very interested in is recently you guys had a letter of intent to Lordstown Motors for an order of 14,000 vehicles. I mean, you can say I have the Lordstown Motors hat on here. A lot of people are already going to love you just by finding out about this. But could you tell us a little bit perhaps about what started this and why you decided to choose Lordstown Motors potentially as opposed to some of the competition?
Sure, good question. Well, first, we think that in a macro view, the move towards zero emission vehicles, particularly battery electric vehicles, is going to be massive in the next 2 to 5 years. Next 10 years, you see companies like Ford Motor announcing they're going to be all electric by 2035. States like California announcing they're going to be not allowing internal combustion engines on their roads after 2035. So this is a huge movement across the United States and globally. In fact, we're probably a little behind the rest of the world in that respect. So our idea of moving into this market is to provide more services to enable the decarbonization of the transportation fleets to complement what we've been doing on the building side. So in particular with Lordstown Motors, what we liked, one is made in the USA. It's a homegrown, hometown company, and it's a great story in and of itself on the revitalization of manufacturing here in the United States. Lordstown, Ohio, as you know of, is a town, I think, of about 1,300 people. The former Chevy plant there, they employed about 15,000, so they employed multiple times of the population that lived in Lordstown. So it was a big economic driver. Generations had worked at that plant since I believe the 60s. And when it shut down, it really had an economic impact on Northeast Ohio and in the Mahoning Valley there. So the reopening is a great story about re-engineering and reinvigorating the economy there, and also leading with made in the USA technology and getting the USA to be a technology leader once again, like they used to be 100 years ago. So it's a great story just from that perspective, but from the perspective of EV vehicle, it's just a great truck. You probably haven't had a chance to look at the truck, but as you see from the picture in the background, they came here to Dallas in front of our offices in mid-December, and I had a chance to actually ride in the truck and go up and kick the tires and take a real hard look at it. And it is quite an impressive vehicle. What you don't realize is just how sturdy and heavy duty the truck is. You go up, the tires are the high level tires. They come up about 3/4 of the way up to your waist. They're very heavy duty, and then within the hubs of the tires, those are where the independent four-wheel electric hub motors are. So those provide a tremendous amount of power and torque. If you ever seen the Lordstown versus Ford towing video that they just put out on YouTube, where it's no contest between the Ford F4 and the Lordstown in terms of they tied them both together and had a pull off, a tug of war basically. Yeah. And the power and the horsepower of this vehicle is very impressive. It's 600 horsepower I don't know if you remember the muscle cars of old, but I remember growing up, that a car that had 350 or 400 horsepower was considered a very high horsepower vehicle, and a muscle car, they called them.
So it's an animal.
But with this new technology, to get 600 horsepower in a pickup truck is quite amazing.
Yeah, it really is. It's built for the fleets, as we've been saying for a long time on this channel, and so that's it falls completely in line with everything that you guys do and everything you guys stand for. So it makes a lot of sense. And what is the intention with the 14,000 trucks that have been ordered? Where are you hoping to put them?
Good question, too. Well, there's a myriad of public and private sector fleets out there that could use a vehicle and that are looking for vehicles just like this. For example, we're talking to a lot of the major cities here in the U.S. that have municipal fleets, for instance, for their water departments, their city departments, any of their workforce that are out in the field every day. This is a perfect vehicle. We feel that with a 250-mile range, it's more than enough. The average home-based fleet miles traveled produces about, I believe, 150 miles. So this is more than adequate to cover the needs and to, quell any range anxiety that might be present. So these are great for municipalities. Our program is great for municipalities in the fact that we provide all the funding and the lenders for that. So we can put these fleets into a municipal fleet at no upfront costs to the city or municipality, which is a great thing. Another thing I always like to say is, show me a city or town that doesn't have a budget deficit, and I'll move there. That seems to be a universal truth. So, the cities, they all have net zero goals and carbon goals, and they want to transition their fleets to net zero, but oftentimes they don't have the budgets to do that in their goals. So what that results in, Jack, is those goals will be set out very far into the future. Like they'll do it they have a goal of 2035, 2040, 2050. But by setting the goals so far out in the future, I'm afraid it's going to be too late. A lot of other leading scientists are afraid it's going to be too late as well. I was reading some information yesterday on the internet about some new scientific studies that came out. And they're saying that the social cost of carbon to society, they're estimating at $100,000 per ton, which previous estimates were about $10,000. This study took into effect a lot of other factors and a longer time frame and came up with this new estimate. Of course, it's just an estimate, but it just gives you an idea of the damage that we're doing by spewing all the carbon into the atmosphere. And one thing that's sad about that, once it gets into the atmosphere, it's very, very hard to remove. They do have some technologies that can remove it, but we couldn't put enough fans and blowers in the atmosphere or plant enough trees to remove all the carbon dioxide we're putting in the air. So we really need to stop it at the point of emissions and clean up our skies and slow down global warming. That's our big overall mission. So this helps in that. I know I kind of maybe wandered a little bit from the original question, but another place where these fleets we feel have a very high use or companies, private companies like utility company fleets, cable company fleets, telecommunication company fleets. They all have very large fleets of light duty pickups. They have their service techs go out. And again, it's a great application of the fact that they're going out, they do their routes, they're servicing throughout the city in their area every day, and then they come back to the home base usually. And, they're not going that many miles every day. So they're typically, again, under 150 miles per day. So with a 250-mile range, this is going to be more than enough to take care of those fleets as well. So it's both public and private sector fleets. I think there's just a huge demand. And as Steve Burns said, the CEO of Lordstown, the number 1, 2, and 3 selling vehicles in the U.S. are pickup trucks. Yep. And Lordstown the reason why we like it, particularly over some of the other new EV trucks that are coming out, such as Tesla or Rivian. They're very nice trucks, don't get me wrong, but for fleets, they're a little, too high of a price point, and also they have features that don't really apply to fleets. They're more of a luxury vehicle for an individual, but these trucks are made to compete with the F-150, the Dodge pickups, the GM and Chevy pickups. And as you can see from the body style, they're very similar, and they are both from a price point and a total cost of ownership. You're much further ahead going with the EV pickup. And this truck, I think, is ideal for the fleet market. And there's not a better vehicle coming out for fleets, I don't feel, in this category than Lordstown.
I love that. You guys really are working as a catalyst. Like, you're more than a middleman right now. And I love the fact that your mission statement, everything you do is surrounding that, especially when we are in the EV space. You can tell that a lot of consideration has gone into everything. And you've just reaffirmed the fact as well that Lordstown does have a fantastic fleet, specifically when it comes to fleets, which I think is something that a lot of people don't realize. We're not aiming the luxury market. We want these vehicles that are going to work and suit everybody. So that, obviously, speaking about that pickup truck, we love it. We'd love to hear a bit about the mission. And then, do we plan on working with other EV makers in different segments?
Yeah, and maybe before I touch on that, like you say, it's a working truck in Lordstown with their "Work for It" slogan, and then also their new spokesperson, Joe Burrow, the last year's Heisman winner. He's just a Midwestern kid, and that's kind of their whole company ethos is hard work, American values, and sturdy, reliable vehicles. So it falls all together in things that I'm a Midwestern boy myself.
Okay.
And those are, the types of values and ethos that I was brought up with too. But another thing a little bit, maybe, Jack, that people don't know about our program in particular is it's not just we don't just provide the EVs. It's a total turnkey package. So when a fleet owner comes to us, we put together the charging stations, the vehicles. We like to, whenever possible, install 100% renewable microgrid. So it's actually a true net zero carbon solution, and we're not just plugging it into a dirty grid and moving the tailpipe emissions to power plant emissions. That doesn't really do you any good in the atmosphere is still getting the CO2 of you're using dirty power, so to speak. But with a 100% renewable microgrid and battery storage, you're actually powering the vehicles with 100% renewable, and that's a true net zero solution. So wherever we can, we like to include that. And then also we can, depending on the requirements of the fleet owner, include a service contract as well. So we provide about everything you need except the driver and the logistics of everyday management. We don't do that, but it's from an infrastructure and a vehicle standpoint and a charging standpoint, we provide everything that's needed for a fleet owner, and we provide the capital to make the transition as well. So if they want to do we call it a pay-as-you-go program. If they want to do that, they can, or if they want to, purchase the whole package up front, they can as well. So we're very flexible that way, and we have some very astute and deep pockets in financial funders that derive their funds from large institutional investors like insurance companies, pension funds, investment banks, and all of those above are looking for green investment, and they've earmarked trillions of dollars into green investment. If you've been following the large pension funds, hedge funds, they're all taking a real serious look at their portfolios and how green they are, and they're divesting themselves of fossil fuels in many cases. And this fits right into the whole investment atmosphere or climate right now too. So it's just a good thing all the way around, from the investors to the fleet owners to the vehicle manufacturers like Lordstown, and of course a company like ourselves where we hope to promote and help alleviate the excess pollution in the world. So it's just, it's a win-win for everybody.
It's fantastic. Yeah, literally everybody, every part of the interaction, and it's all better for the world at the end of the day, which is a very and very important one for you. And from what I can
Exactly.
tell on the website, you are a quite large company at this stage, more than 3,800 total employees.
E Squared is a alliance partnership of a lot of different companies.
Yeah,
We provide a myriad of companies in the building technology sector, as well as OEMs in the vehicle manufacturing, charging infrastructure, microgrids. So it's a alliance partner model where we bring in expertise from various fields and industries to complete our projects. So that's kind of the way E Squared is set up.
fantastic.
Lordstown is one of our alliance partners as an OEM in their endurance pickup. So that's we can rely on thousands of employees and billions of dollars worth of sales in our network to complete our projects.
Fantastic. Seems like a very strong system, very, very strong system. And I want to retrack back to before we spoke about that. You obviously will be working with more OEMs down the line. I have a few segments in particular we speak about on this channel. One of them being last mile delivery. And obviously when we speak about Lordstown Motors, one of the ones I'm going to have to ask about is workhorse. Would you have any interest in entering that segment anytime soon?
Oh, yeah, good question. Actually, we are entering that segment. We're talking to some of the largest logistic companies in the world, just along those lines. And that's probably as big a market, or probably bigger than even the light duty truck, is the last mile delivery. So all these vans that are out there for Amazon, UPS, the USPS, FedEx, they're all primarily ICE fleets right now. But they could be converted very easily with our program in the manufacturers in the network, manufacturers like Workhorse Motors that have great last mile delivery vehicles. And of course, you probably know that Lordstown has a lot of roots with Workhorse, as Steve Burns used to run Workhorse as well. And the chassis, or the skateboard and the hub wheels, were actually from the Workhorse vehicle. So that would be a perfect vehicle to introduce to these large last mile delivery fleets.
Okay. Very interesting. I appreciate that one. And then I'd just like to find out a bit more about E Squared in general. We spent a lot of time there speaking about the OEMs, the pickup, now the last mile. But what are some other segments to the business that are helping us get net carbon negative, or net carbon zero at least?
Yeah, great question. Our mission of the company is to provide a total net zero carbon solution in as many sectors as we can. And we've been in the building sector with clients like Rockefeller Plaza, New York City, and other large manufacturing plants, in helping them reduce their carbon on the building side with smart building technology and other types of energy related technologies. And like I say, now we're getting in the transportation side. So if you look at those two sectors, buildings are about 40% of the CO2 emission. Transportation is roughly 40% of the CO2 emission. Figures vary depending on what source you look at, but that's roughly where it is. And manufacturing and industrial makes up the other 20%. But if you can concentrate on those two 40% sectors and make a real difference there, we're going to be able to solve the global warming problem. And another thing that I always like to say is, global warming can be solved, and it's not because we don't have the technologies. The technologies exist today to solve it. But the problem that I see is there's not enough programs out there to accelerate the transition. There's too much resistance in the old school thinking, the older generation of engineers, the older generations in the automobile industry. They need to have new thinking, new ideas, new paradigms that they work under. And once that happens, the transition is going to happen, I think, very quickly. And as we're seeing, it's just starting to reach that tipping point in the auto industry. And I think it will in the building sector with smart cities and smart building technologies as well. So we're offering a total net zero energy package to organizations where we can go in and provide net zero building technologies, as well as take their transportation fleet to net zero.
Very cool. Awesome. And I saw on the website you work with companies. I saw Google, I saw Microsoft, I saw NASA. Would they have been, buildings, or how would you have been working with those kind of people?
Yeah, exactly. They're companies where our technologies are present in their buildings. So that's on the building side. We need to build that out a little bit on the transportation side, since that's a new sector. So that's what I'm working on presently, and something that we're very excited about. And we've really gotten a lot of good response from the Total Net Zero Energy program. I've been talking to some Fortune 100 logistics companies. They're very interested in taking like a logistics center, for example, Jack, and turning that into a net zero operations and on the building side, and also adding a zero emission fleet to the transportation side. So that's a perfect example of a net zero retrofit that can just make a tremendous amount of difference. And the thing is, a lot of these companies right now, they're not using the latest technologies that they could. For instance, there's a new Amazon logistics center built just north of our office here, and it's the latest and greatest, but they don't have one solar panel, they don't have one EV in the parking lot. They really need to kind of change their operation to incorporate net zero technologies and to decarbonize their companies faster. I know Amazon is always a big proponent of renewable energy and so forth, and Google and Microsoft and all the leaders are, but there's still a lot of things that they could be doing to help the environment that they need to catch up a little bit to the technology that's available.
And I suppose being front and center, working with all of these big companies right now, do you see more of a shift happening? Because I mean, we can kind of we can guess from the outside. We can see certain companies. We see Amazon often speaking about it, but do you see more interest coming, let's say, over the last year or two from some of these big players? Because I assume once the big guys really start to take it seriously, a lot of the smaller guys will follow suit.
Well, that's the idea, Jack, and that's what we're working on, and a lot of other companies out there, and a lot of governments now, and we're real optimistic with a shift in the administration now, and the change in the administration. There's going to be a shift towards clean energy, and having clean energy be a driver of the economic recovery out of the pandemic. And not only in the United States, I hear a lot about that in the Europe, in the EU. They're going to be spending billions of dollars to promote clean energy and renewable energy and energy efficiency, smart buildings, smart cities. This is all coming together as kind of a nexus of technology. The IoT technology is a big player in this, in both transportation and the building side. Then also the renewable technologies, things like lighting, improvements, LED lighting, solar improvements. The costs of both have come down exponentially over the last 5 years. So now it's not only economical, but it's profitable for companies to shift over to the renewable and clean tech, and also, save a lot of CO2 emissions. So, it really makes sense, not just from an environmental and CO2 standpoint, but from an economic standpoint as well. So there's really no reason that any of these organizations should be running off the old technology. And that's kind of where companies like E-Squared, we're just a small player in the whole puzzle, but we hope to provide a great contribution for that and work with other companies. And it's going to take an effort that's going to take a lot of collaboration and a lot of companies working together. And a lot of governments working together. So it's quite a task before us, but it's kind of like the fourth industrial revolution. I hear it mentioned a lot of times, and there's really, there hasn't been this much change in the building sector, transportation sector, in 100, 150 years. So it's really reaching a crescendo and kind of the tipping point, like I mentioned earlier, where, companies and governments and cities, municipalities, they're all going to be, changing out their technology and weaning themselves from a fossil-based economy to a renewable economy, because we can't sustain ourselves running on fossil fuels. That's been shown. And it's just kind of a dirty industry as far as, extracting oil and gas, all the way through transporting it to burning it. There's nothing that's environmentally friendly in any of those, and we want to kind of help change the world. Not to demonize fossil fuels, but their time has come to pass, just like the horse and buggy time passed 150 years ago, and cars took their place. This is the same type of transformation, and nothing's, the coal industries and the oil and gas industries, although, they've been necessary, people there are going to have to reinvent themselves and look at different ways to do business, just like, people did in the past. So it's just, technology and technological change that's happening like we've probably never seen before.
Yeah. We're in the middle of this huge change that makes sense in every single way possible. And we just need to help people realize that, help people speed up that process. And it's starting to get there. It's starting to get there.
Yeah.
So I suppose they're the main things we do. But is there anything else you'd like to let the viewers know that is very important part of the business, aside from the buildings and now the electric vehicles?
Well, the other thing that's exciting too about this is hydrogen.
Okay.
And there's a lot of new hydrogen vehicles coming out there, particularly in the mid to heavy class trucks. There's hydrogen cement trucks, there's hydrogen refuge trucks, there's hydrogen long haul trucks, there's hydrogen buses. So this is going to be a big part of it too. And our program encompasses this as well, where we can offer hydrogen fleets and put the hydrogen fueling infrastructure on site and produce the hydrogen on site. So again, it'll be 100% renewable solution. But I think, the next big wave after the electrification is going to be the hydrogenation, if you will, of these large fleets. And there's going to be a room, I think, for both industries. In hydrogen is going to lend itself more towards the heavy duty vehicles and the long haul class 7 and 8 trucks, whereas electrification is going to lend itself more to like last mile delivery or these light duty trucks that have a home base where they have a limited number of miles. They come in every night, they can be recharged. It's a little different when you're looking at a long haul fleet where they're going out on a trip of 600 miles, 700 miles a day. They don't want to stop halfway through and charge their vehicle for 8 hours. That's not feasible. So with hydrogen, you have the range where they can fuel up once and make that trip. And then when they refuel, it's much like just filling up their existing petrol tanks. Hydrogen is a lot more similar to what they're running now. So I think, that's going to be another huge area too. And we're working with companies on that transition as well.
Fantastic. And are you primarily in North America right now? Is there any European plans or anything of the sorts?
Oh, right now, there's plenty to keep us busy in North America, but we are not adverse to going global. And at some point, we hope to be. So there's certainly a need all over the world for this program. So we will grow as fast as we can and as reasonable as we can, so we can service all the fleets. But that's in our future plans. We hope to be a global company.
That's fantastic. Tim, I think that's really the large majority I wanted to know. It was fantastic getting your insight on the whole situation and getting it from somebody who, again, isn't making these trucks, but is really working to fix the prominent issue that all of these people are. You know what I mean? So it was really nice to get that insight. But would you have any last words for the viewers?
Well, I just wanted to thank you for asking my views and hopefully we've covered some good. I think we've covered a lot of ground today. So I think I really didn't have anything more to say about the program right now. But feel free to be in touch in the future and anything. Things are always changing, and we'll keep you updated.
Please do, Tim. No, 100%. We will be in touch again down the line. I'm sure of it.